Today on the Back to Paranormal podcast, we're going to be talking about astral projection. And does it really exist? That we're going to find out on today's episode of Back to Paranormal.
Well, hello, faithful listeners. Good evening. I'm Marjorie. This is another episode of our Back to Paranormal podcast, and I'm sitting here with my very wonderful, handsome co-host, Brian.
Who's that?
Brian Mitchell.
Oh, it's me.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Hi, Marjorie. How you doing tonight?
Because it's spook season, I almost said good evening.
Oh, well,
I didn't want to scare anybody.
Yeah,
away.
we don't want to do those hokey voices.
No, don't do the.
But that did sound pretty darn good, though. I like that. Well, yeah. Today we're going to be talking about some interesting stuff, and
Yes,
we're kind of excited about this.
I'm very excited
because it's a much popular topic about astral projection. But before we get into that.
We're not getting in. We're staying out.
We're staying out, but we're going to get in a second.
Momentarily.
So, what? Okay, so we have a drink. We always have some special drink that we're going to have, and I have to credit you. That's it's Halloween month. We're only 2 weeks away from Halloween.
It is spooky season,
and we try to theme something to the podcast or to the season. So, what are we drinking tonight?
I didn't want to serve a beverage that would give anybody an out-of-body experience because, unlike you, we're going to talk about it, guys. But I'm scared of this. I'm actually scared of this.
She's a little hesitant.
I am reticent to really jump in, but
yes,
because it's Halloween season, I got us a Cabernet Sauvignon that is called Frankenstein.
Yikes.
Otherwise known as Frankenstein.
The name scares me.
19 Crimes Frankenstein.
Right. Well, I want to suck your wine.
They also had a vampire one.
Yes.
Okay, so I didn't know what was going on. Before we boop,
yeah,
I was in the other room.
You were.
Down the hall.
Yeah.
Pouring the wine into these goblets.
And did you hear
and
a ghost?
As I poured the first liquid, flowing into the goblet, I heard, and I was like, what is going on?
Wonder what that was.
I hope that's not what the wine. Then I come in here and you're in here goofing, making voices.
Making voices on the microphone, yeah, because we test everything before we actually start recording, and sometimes I get a little goofy.
I liked it.
I'll get goofy. Yeah. All right.
What's going on?
So,
all right,
okay, we're gonna boop.
My love, cheers
and
to you.
This is a goblet.
It is a goblet.
And here we go. We're gonna boop boop. Ooh.
Sounded lovely.
It did. Okay, here we go.
Ring-a-ding-ding.
Okay, a little sippy doodle.
Mm-hmm.
Sippy doodle.
I don't know this one. Oh.
Okay, here we go.
I'm not sure.
Frankenstein makes good wine.
No.
Oh, you didn't like it?
I did. I brought in a backup called Modelo.
I've heard of that wine. Okay, it's a beer, but okay.
So you have it. How are you this evening?
Okay, so are you not digging the Frankenstein wine?
Maybe it needs time to breathe.
Oh.
I don't know.
Maybe we have to put some electrodes to it and wake it up,
Exactly.
I don't know. Well, okay. Hey, we tried, right?
I got a little carried away. Everybody's decorating for Halloween.
Yeah.
And Thanksgiving and Christmas all in once. Everybody's decorated for Halloween, and I was looking around the wine shop, and I was like, oh,
right.
Halloween wine.
Maybe if you put a little sugar in there, it might taste really good. Might be like Welch's Grape Aid or something like that.
I'll use it for the pears.
Okay, there you go. All right. So anyway,
Okay. How
let's.
are you tonight? Are you
I'm
excited
I'm
about
great.
this topic?
You look beautiful, by the way, tonight.
Hey. Thank you.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I get happy because it's just, it suddenly got a little bit chilly and you feel that crisp in the air, and this is the perfect time. This is the perfect
This
time.
is this is a time.
I am
The
not a
best
summer
time.
girl.
It's the best time of your life.
I like it when it starts to get cold. I get very, very happy. And I feel like
Well, when
it's
you're
a
happy,
gift.
when you're happy, I'm happy.
Doesn't it make you happy though too that it's getting chilly?
I like it, but the sun is going down earlier, and soon it's going to be it's going to be dark at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So, not looking forward to that. But I do like it when it's a little bit warm, but I do like the crispness. So and it's getting you got to get used to it too. So
You need a little bit more time.
I need probably.
Okay, well, it's supposed to be sunny all week.
Well, that's good.
But then after that, you got to get with the program.
That's it. And getting with the program. Okay, so we're going to dive into this topic of astral projection.
It is very controversial.
It is to a certain extent. And there were scientists out there. We looked at a lot of different things about this. I believe that people do astral project. I think I've done it early when I was a kid, and I may have done it in a dream. And there are people out there, there are experts on this subject that believe that we astral project every night, that we actually leave our bodies when we go into that deep state of sleep, that we actually leave. We leave our bodies and we kind of experience things. And I think to a certain extent that's true. So how do you feel about that?
I don't know. I've heard of like the astral plane. Of course, I've heard of that. Anybody who's seen Poltergeist, understands. But I never really heard of astral projection until I met you.
Oh,
And
okay.
it was the first time I had ever been told about it. And so then I was it was a little bit more on my radar.
Well, what have you learned about it? Because I'm assuming people know about this, and some people may not know about this. So, what have you learned about it?
Okay, well, simply put, astral projection is the ability to harness our astral being, astral meaning of the stars. That's just the term that they are assigning to it, and separate from our physical body to travel to a different plane of existence.
Now, are we still attached to our bodies, or what's the theory on that?
A lot of people address the theory of, okay, well, what's going to happen to your poor body, with you gone? And the idea is the general consensus is that there's a silver cord that attaches your soul or your spirit or your consciousness, and this is hotly debated as to what exactly is leaving the body. Okay. And that silver cord attaches the traveling part of you, the astral body, as you will, that's attaching you to the physical body through this silver cord.
Now, we talked about this a little bit on last week's show, and I said in Hercules, in the Disney film Hercules, and we've said this about a lot of Disney films, there's a lot of supernatural elements, and in that film, these three witches will actually take the soul of somebody, and they have the scissors, the special scissors, and they would sever that cord.
Okay.
And it was horrifying because basically, Disney films can get really dark, but this particular thing, they try to do it in a lighthearted way, but basically they were just saying, yeah, you're not of this earth anymore. And
I've never even seen the movie, but just the way you describe that to me, even though it's a Disney movie, was enough to kind of scare me from wanting to learn. I wanted to learn what this is, what people think it is, what science says it is, what spiritual healers say this is, this phenomenon. But I don't want to know how. A lot of people are out there trying to teach you how to do this, and
Yeah.
there are. I mean, YouTube is just smattered with videos of how to do this. I don't want to know how.
In
I'm very happy with my.
In 5 easy steps. And if you give me $100, I'll give you the 3-step version. Yes. Sorry, I was doing my Mr. Haney, a very poor Mr. Haney
Who's Mr. Haney?
from Green Acres. He was a con artist salesman.
Oh, is that so?
And in the country, and he'd come by in this broken down truck, and he would say, "Look, I got this washing machine," and it was basically like a big can with a motorboat engine in it, and that was the washing machine. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was crazy.
How the very cunning country folk think they can outsmart the city slickers. Is that it?
I think they were outsmarting the country people. But yeah, so that was a very, very funny episode. But getting away from that to this.
So we were, we read some things, we looked at some things, we saw a couple lectures. There was this one woman from England, Dr. Susan Blackmore.
Right.
She has her degrees, dual degree from Oxford in psychology and physiology, and then a PhD from Surrey
Yes.
in parapsychology. And she talks about a lot of things. If you want to look her up, she has a lot of lectures all over YouTube. She did do a lecture about out-of-body experience. It went on quite some time. And we never really got to the meat that was on the bone there.
Yeah.
And basically, I feel in a nutshell that she is a natural born, she's one of those, and I don't know if you feel this way, but there are so many scientists out there who are truly gifted and brilliant and natural born scientists who sadly are extremely uncomfortable with questions and question marks lingering, hanging by their hook on an invisible clothesline that they need to hang something on.
Right.
And I see this all the time, and I feel like telling them, baby, you're in the wrong racket. Get out of the science business, because you need to be comfortable with things that are not yet answered, have yet to be answered,
Right.
or may never be answered.
Yeah.
We only live a certain bit of time on Earth, and these questions have been around for millennia, long before Earth maybe even existed.
Yeah. I mean, we watched it with an open mind. But the thing is there's a lot of questions that are never answered, and it seems like science seems to want to skirt around those things. Like, how did Uncle Albert appear to me in my room at 2:00 in the morning and tell me that something was going to happen the next day, and then that materialized.
Yeah.
And
it wasn't his imagination, nor was it your imagination.
Right.
So if it's imagination, if it's a construct of our brain that doesn't really actually take place, then science is very likely to sort of label that as imaginary.
Right.
And that's okay. But it's a little condescending. I have never had an out-of-body experience that I know of.
Yes.
I do know that there are certain times that when I dream, there are a couple places where it's very, very specific, and I know I've been there before. And I've said this on the show several times.
Yeah.
It's very, very real. It is not a place of this time.
Right.
Of my lifetime. It is not a place I have ever been in my Marjorie's living life, but I don't want to leave. And I know that I've been there before, and I know that in my dream, I will go there again at some point. It doesn't happen often, but it happens. I don't consider that an out-of-body experience because I'm a completely different person
Right.
in those experiences. I think, I don't know for sure, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a physiologist, and I don't have a PhD from Surrey in parapsychology, but I kind of think it's from another time.
Right.
you
Right.
know, that I had.
Yeah, I think I think energy. I think our minds can do some really amazing things, and I've had a lot of different things happen to me, like knowing where things were, knowing something was going to happen before it happened, and it's and I'm writing a book about this stuff. I'm almost done. I got
No, it's a
got four
lot
more
of complicated.
4 more chapters, but there's a lot of things there that cannot be explained, and I know science is just dying. People in science are just dying to find some sort of explanation that, or maybe not, just kind of gloss over it to explain it away. And I don't think you can explain this stuff away. And that's my problem with the science community. I think when stuff is there and it's very clear that this was something of an extraordinary nature, they either try to find a way of explaining it or they just discount it by saying, well, that was just a coincidence, you know? And I don't believe that. I don't believe in any coincidences. So there.
A lot about science is they are. It's not with malice. Sometimes with political ambition or drive, or what have you. But I don't think it's with malice. It's well intentioned. They are just using the tools that they have within their toolbox, and maybe that's just not enough. And so many people are looking at this. So you have Susan Blackmore, who I kind of get the gist that she's saying it's something that's a construct of your brain, which means you imagined it. No matter how strongly you physically feel that this is an experience that you endured,
Right.
it is an imaginary thing, because she did have an out-of-body experience and she was floating all over her school. She was doing, and 2 days later she went out to inspect all the places that she thought that she saw from her autoscopic aerial view.
Right.
And there were so many details that were so vivid during her out-of-body experience that were not exactly as they were. So ever since then, she's been desperate to find answers for this,
Right.
which I think is her worst enemy.
Probably is.
That dire need to shoehorn something into a square peg into a round hole or what have you.
Right.
Now, you have had an out-of-body experience.
Yes, when I was very young.
And that was confirmed
Yes.
by the lovely psychic medium Jennifer Ann, who was on with us for 2 episodes.
For 2 episodes. You can look back. If you haven't listened to that, it's an amazing episode, but we did that a couple of months back.
So tell our listeners what happened, what transpired. Please.
Okay. Well, okay. So I don't think I brought this up before. What happened was I was maybe 3 or 4 years old, and I was had a nap during the day. And Marjorie's over here smiling because she likes to envision me as like this little kid sometimes, and it's very, very innocent, very, very beautiful. But what happened?
You were a cute little boy.
I was a cute little boy with hair. And today I still have hair, but just not as much. But no, I was sleeping, and all of a sudden I found myself up at the corner of the room, looking down on my body, watching me sleep. I was looking at myself sleeping from a perspective that I've never ever experienced in that room, and there was another male figure with me, another boy, and I believe because my mother miscarried, I didn't find this out until maybe a few years ago. She miscarried, and if that boy was born, I probably would not have been. But I believe that the person who was with me in that room was that boy. And so I remember having some sort of a conversation, a communication with him. I can't tell you what it is now, but the image to me is very vivid. And then I woke up and I was confused because I saw myself out of my body. I saw myself on the bed. I knew I was separated from this. And so I didn't mention it to anybody. I was 3, 4, just, I just kind of kept it to myself. But what happened was years later, I always wondered about that. I always wondered about that experience. And I knew it happened. It was so real to me. And after my father passed away, I wanted to find a psychic medium because I do believe I was read when I was in college, and I was going through a tough time. Didn't know if I should continue on with what I wanted to do, which would be in animation, making animated cartoons, and so one day, this older lady, out of nowhere, I was sitting there waiting for a class at Art Students League in Manhattan, and she read me, and it was just this random thing. She appeared, and then she read me, and then she kind of disappeared. I never saw her again, which still boggles my mind. But she told me that I'd be working in the profession. She told me I'd be moving to California, which was the goal, and being in New York. And she said, you'd be working in commercial art, you'd be very successful, and I was. And she described it so vividly to me, like where I was living and where it'd be and stuff, and basically all that stuff came true. So I believed in psychic mediums. I believed in that. And so when my father passed away, I had a lot of questions. And I was looking for a psychic medium, not somebody that was like really famous, but somebody that did it and was sincere about doing this, and not a celebrity. And so I found this person, and it was Jennifer Ann. Mm-hmm. And the weird thing about it, I could walk over to her house. That's how close she was. It's not like these psychic mediums are, they're, around the corner, you normally have to drive.
If you want a really good one like she is, you really have to seek it out.
Yeah, and she was not, I was looking for somebody that just was not milking it, because some of these people charge $1,000 or $500, some of the more famous ones. But I was looking up reviews, and people were saying, "Oh, she's amazing," and so she had a waiting list. And so I ended up waiting a year, close to a year.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that part. Wow,
yeah. She had a waiting list, but it wasn't that expensive. She's raised her rates now, but that's fine. But anyway, I had a reading with her. And before I went in for the reading, I said a little prayer. And there are a couple of things I wanted to know. And one of the things was, I want to know things that I couldn't possibly know. I want her to read me, but I don't want her to read my mind. And so I wanted this information to be pulled from somewhere. And so, when the reading came about, and the other question was, did I have that out-of-body experience? So the validation, she came like, as soon as she started reading me, she identified my mother and my aunt and my dad and my uncle, who was very close, and they were both gone. They died, and so she said 2 A names: your mom and somebody that's also like a mother figure. They're still here, but your uncle, who's like a father figure, and your dad both passed away. And she just started reading, and the stuff was amazing. But about 4 minutes into the reading, she just stops and she looks at me and she goes, oh, and that out-of-body experience you had when you were really young, that really did happen.
Wow.
And then somewhere maybe about 15 minutes into the reading, she basically, she veered off and she started talking about things that I had no idea about, which is basically what I asked for. But it was very confusing to me. And she told me stuff that I had no idea what it was, but it wasn't until later that night that I actually found out what all that information meant. And so she was right on the money about everything, with the exception of one thing, and then that came to light about a week later, which was totally bizarre. But she knew things that she wouldn't, you know, if you look me up on a website or whatever, you know, you look me up on the internet, that information would not have been in there, you know. I mean, it was, she knew stuff about my mother. She said my mother had cataract surgery, and she only had one eye done. She needed both eyes done, and she only had the one eye done. And so at the end of the reading, she said, "Oh, your father said, tell your mother to get the other eye done." And I was like,
yeah, no,
yeah,
she's amazing.
No, she's really,
just amazing.
she's incredible. But,
she's a real gift.
yes, but the gist, yeah, I mean, there's so much information came through, and a lot of it just absolutely shocking. How she knew about the stuff that I didn't know about. Mm-hmm. And then when I got clarification, that was pretty crazy. I mean, it was just all amazing. Mm-hmm. So I know it sounds like we're shilling for her, but that's not the case. It's just that's what happened. But really, this all came up because of the out of body experience.
We do like to promote her, and I think, you know, a large part of it is, mm-hmm. you know, we have friends who desperately are looking for answers, and
yeah.
When you have a friend who really needs some help, and I'm not saying that going to a psychic medium is going to solve all your problems or whatever, but sometimes that can really help, but sometimes it can really hurt. You can have someone who's in so much need of guidance and reassurance and help and comfort.
Right.
And in a time of vulnerability and hurting, and yet they're being taken advantage of. And I've heard a lot of, some really scary things where people are so desperately seeking healing,
right,
in some form.
Right.
And then so when you find someone who's in this very elusive art, mm-hmm. this field, and you know, it really runs the gamut, and they really are truly gifted. I'm always going to want to promote them because they can really help people.
Oh, they can help people, yeah. And she really helped me at that time, because I was really looking for answers about my father. But mm-hmm. but like I said, there were certain things that I needed to know, mm-hmm. and she really clarified it. And there's no doubt in my mind. I've had things happen to me that are just so fantastic that it's just like, yeah, there's no possible way that's something else. And, you know, I can have a scientist standing in front of me, you know, analyzing this whole thing, and they'll never convince me that, you know, oh, this is the product of your brain.
Right. Well, yes, there was this one.
Yeah.
There's this healer, a spiritual healer named Christina Lopez. She calls herself the Heart Alchemist. Mm-hmm. And she basically said, and she's like, you can follow the science-based explanation of astral projection, and basically that really mm-hmm. boils down to when your brain has a brief moment, a neurological glitch where your brain just cannot locate the body.
Yeah.
So again, it's generated from the brain, and that may very well be true. I do not know. I have never had this happen to me.
Yeah.
You are very, very strongly against scientists who explain it away. And a lot of times you will listen to scientists who are speaking about this, and they use very condescending language.
Yeah, sometimes, yes.
And it's almost like they're trying to shame you.
Yeah.
And-
We did an episode with Eben Alexander.
And-
Not that he was on. We were talking about his book. And was it Proof of Heaven, right? I think
Yes.
that's the book. Yeah.
Yes.
So we did this episode, and basically he was basically a
Neurosurgeon.
neurosurgeon. Thank you so much. And he believed all the stuff that all the other scientists out there were saying, that your mind or your personality is made up in your mind,
In your brain.
and
There is no heaven. There is no Christ.
there is no soul.
There is
yes,
no God.
and he came from a background where his father was a preacher. Yeah.
You know, you bring him up, and every time, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just have to say, every time I really think about the entire alignment of his existence,
Yeah.
every single thing is not just what happened to him, that he came back from a coma and was brain dead and had an experience
Yes.
with the universe and the creator, and that he's whole again. He's completely whole again.
Yeah.
And even better than before.
Yeah.
In terms of his faith has been restored. But as also happened with Dr. Howard Storm
Yes.
from that movie After Death.
After Death, yeah.
Eben Alexander, I really feel every single thing in his life was an alignment of miracles, one after the other. It's almost like an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Oh, I believe-
Where all of a sudden, in the last 5 minutes of the movie, everything falls into perfect place, and because just the whole entire circumstance of his life is one miracle after another after another.
Right. I've talked about stuff like this on shows, like, basically things that kind of align for you.
It's like divine design.
And I had somebody on, I do another podcast, which is a Cartoonerific podcast. I had a guy on, and he was a student of mine named Sam Levine. And I found out stuff on that show that was just so incredible, because he wanted to become an animator. He wanted to work in this field of animation. And the person he was working with, somehow he was working on the movie Aladdin as a voice artist or a singer. And so, he came in one day, his roommate, and he said, I'm doing this singing thing for Aladdin, and I don't know, are you interested in going? And he was like, "You're working on that movie? You're doing voices on that?" And he said, "Yeah, sure." So he went, and it's just this magical alignment, and nobody gets that every day.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that, and he went, and he was there at the voice session. Or one of the singing sessions. They had, Alan Menken there and doing music and this whole orchestra, and they had some of the actors there and stuff like that in New York. And it's just one of those things. It's one of those magical things. And I'm going to explain one other thing. We had on a gentleman on the show. He's an animator from the Midwest and a very, very talented guy. And he wanted to go to Los Angeles, and he wanted to work in animation. And so, and this is just one of those magical things. But he was a big fan of Lost in Space. So was I, growing up, the TV show. And so he was looking for some sort of a sign, and that he should move out to Los Angeles, because he was getting work where he was in the animation profession. So he went on the plane, and on the plane, they showed an old episode of Lost in Space with the cast reunion from Lost in Space. And he said, and I said to him I've been on many planes. They've never shown old episodes of anything on a plane. It's always a movie and it's always something new. But for you to go on that plane and them showing you Lost in Space episode
random.
and a Lost in Space, because you're a big fan of this, and he took it as some sort of because he was saying, give me a sign,
Yes.
and I was like, well, basically they took that sign, they like nailed it to your head, because it is basically, that's clear as day to me, right? So, okay, I know it's not astral projection, but...
No, but I interrupted you while you were saying about Eben Alexander.
Right.
And yes, and I agree with you. Both of those stories are confirmation that there are no coincidences.
Yes.
And you and I both share that.
Yes.
Share that belief. But you were saying that, and I believe what you were when you were getting at when I interrupted you was Eben Alexander had no brain. So here's this man.
Yeah, he was dead. He was
wildly successful.
Yes.
Neurosurgeon, brilliant, outstandingly talented, and his faith was all in life, what we think of it, our feelings, all is what we do, what we do with our time here is all a byproduct of the brain. And then he has this unbelievable experience. His body is still existing. It's in the hospital.
But there's no brain activity.
There's absolutely no brain whatsoever.
Yeah.
And so how does that explain his journey to heaven and back? And so this heart alchemist, Christina Lopez, she has the spiritual, she says in the spiritual definition, it's where the human focus shifts from the inside to the outside, because what is within us is so much greater than just what is contained inside this body.
Yes.
And so it expands towards the outside, and your consciousness just completely changes focus so that you have a complete expansion of your view.
Yes.
And you're able to broaden your perspective.
Right.
To take you out of the small mind is the term that she used.
The belief to me is basically, yes, your subconscious is expansive, and it feeds into. There's a thing where people talk about the collective conscious.
Yes, we've talked about
this, and it's basically, yes, your mind is limited to your body when you're awake, because you are getting you're getting the visual, you're getting the hearing, the taste, you're getting everything of this world. But when you go inside and it's just the mind is expansive. It goes out, it radiates out, and there's information out there that basically you're gleaning from. There's so much about your soul and that specific area that of your mind, where basically you can find out a lot of different information. I mean, it's amazing when sometimes I'll have a dream, and in that dream it will tell me what I need to do, and it doesn't happen that often, unfortunately. But when I really lock into that, it's absolutely amazing, and I wonder where that information is coming from. It's
and it could be, like you said, there are some people who truly believe that it happens every night when you fall asleep and you leave your body.
I think it does.
I think that you're capable of doing this. I don't know if it's ever happened to me. I wouldn't be able to confirm it or
you're afraid
or
of doing
disprove it.
Yeah.
I'm happy with my I'm happy where I am. Right. I know that when I was very little, I used to tell people, and I was so convinced of this, and don't ask me, I had some very interesting ideas, and
you did, I heard some.
Some very interesting ideas.
Yeah. Can you share one? Is there
Well,
one?
yes. I mean, some of them were not
Yeah.
real, but they were of my fantasy, I guess.
Right.
But when I was really small, I would play. If my mom was getting dressed to go out, I would sit on the bed and play with the jewelry. And she had an opal ring, this big Ethiopian opal, and it just looked like stars were going on, and it looked like Aurora Borealis was going on in there. And I would stare and stare and think, how is all of that inside this round stone,
Right.
And finally one day I went up to my dad and I looked up at him and I was like, I said, I figured it out. And he said, oh, really? And he was always kind of amused at my haywire, my harebrained schemes. And he was like, what did you figure out? And
Wait, what was that?
He was like, what did you figure out, Marjorie?
Right.
And I said, opals are petrified octopus and tentacles. And he normally would always tell me the truth, but when I would say something like that with so much conviction, and
You just let it go.
he was like,
Yeah.
I think you're right. And he just went about his day. But I do remember very strongly feeling this,
Right.
convinced of this. And I said to so many kids in my school, it was like, your brain is a universe. You don't understand. It's a universe.
Yeah.
And I think I had just been to the planetarium, and it's in this big dome that's the shape of a cranium and has all these wonderful stars inside and,
Right.
and all of this stuff. And I'm like, there's so much to know.
Yeah.
Why are we messing around with arithmetic when there's so much to know?
I think the interesting thing with this type of phenomenon, right, is the fact that you can go to different places. You can go, if you want, to different universes, right, different planets, and then, or you can go into different areas of time.
Here, I can't.
Oh, you're handing me this.
I'm handing it.
the
I'm
Franken-
passing it over.
The Frankenstein wine.
I can't.
Yes.
I'm
Okay.
glad you enjoyed it, my love.
I'm actually into the Modelo. I finished it.
Oh, okay.
It was after I put sugar in it and started.
Cinnamon, pumpkin spice
It was
season.
it was
No, but-
alcohol infused Kool-Aid. Kind of, yeah.
I'm sorry. It was a stinker.
No,
Sorry.
okay. Well, hey, they can't all be
I
great.
can't win them all.
No.
For you. But yes, you can go. You
You can go to different time frames and stuff, and I believe people can do that. I've never done it at will, just saying I'm going to do this, but it always happened like when I was sleeping, and I don't think it's happened to me recently, but but I believe it happened to me a couple of times. Mm-hmm. And I think when people get like a deja vu effect, like when they go somewhere and they all of a sudden hits them like they're standing in a place that they stood before.
Yeah.
I think that could be like something
That's
was.
a possibility.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
When I was small, I used to get such strong. I've been here before. I've been here before. I
Yeah.
remember this. I remember this, and it would really overwhelm me. And my mom would be like, "Oh, it's just deja vu. It's just deja vu."
It's just deja vu.
Yeah.
Yes.
Shoo, go away. But yeah, the Heart Alchemist also made a very good point. She said, don't, if you train yourself to do this, don't do it as a means of bypassing your current reality. Do it as a way of getting information that is productive to you,
Right.
productive to your life or to the life of a loved one.
Right.
But don't do it. And then she referenced people use this astral projection in popular culture. I actually, after you explained to me what astral projection was, I think I was watching Netflix one night and I saw this British limited series, and I think it was called Be behind her eyes, and it was like a 6 or 7 episode thing, and boy, did it creep me out. It was about this person who knew how to astrally project himself into someone else and then take over their
You told me about
life, and it scared the daylights out of me.
Yeah.
I just was like, that is creepy as all get out.
Right.
And then she mentioned a movie called Ready Player One. I think she said that was Spielberg.
Yeah.
But then it also made me think of a movie that I really enjoyed that came out a little while ago called Don't Worry, Darling.
Right.
And that is very much about this way of escaping this horrible life that you have. There are ways of making your life here on Earth better that are here.
Yes.
And now
there was one movie that
everybody can do it.
One movie that you're forgetting that I thought was an amazing movie. It was Christopher Reeve, Somewhere in Time.
You're right.
And
I love that movie. I love that. It breaks my heart.
he wants to go back to a certain time, and he falls in love with this woman, and he
wills himself.
He wills himself by, and to me that's like astral projection. And I don't know if you can do that. I don't know if you can will yourself like that, where you're an embodied. You have your body
there.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that. But it was an interesting take.
Well, Jane Seymour is one beautiful, beautiful lady, so I think that would be inspiration to try.
Yeah, but I don't know if that was the inspiration to go back. I don't remember the story.
Yes. See, what happens?
He saw a picture of her.
No, what happens is he has this amazing night of a debut of his play, and yes. I have watched it more than once.
I've seen it a couple of times. It's a very striking movie. Yeah.
Old lady comes up from nowhere.
Yeah.
And comes up to him. And this is actually kind of going to give me goosebumps because I say this to you every day.
Yeah.
She hands him something.
Right.
A necklace or something. And she says, "Come back to me."
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's something you say to me every day.
I say, I didn't realize that was the same thing.
Yeah. Come back to me.
Come back to me,
yeah,
my
always.
love.
I love you.
I love you.
You're my baby.
I do. I love that movie for so many reasons.
I do too.
I especially love the dresses.
It's a favorite movie of mine, and it is a heartbreaker.
Heartbreaking film. And
at the end,
Christopher Reeve is just such a talent. So
I worked with Christopher Reeve, and it was after the accident.
Yeah.
I worked with him on a movie, and he died when I was there. I got to meet his wife. His wife was there a few weeks later. I'm trying to forge on. Mm-hmm. It was an animated movie that he was directing, but yes.
My late father, and a bunch of people have said this, but my late father, when he was much younger, it was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed version of Christopher Reeve. They look so much the same.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow, interesting. Well, we've run the gamut here.
I know. I don't feel like we even talked about.
We did, and I believe it's a real thing. There are people that claim they can do this, and I know Marjorie does not want to try it. I would be interested in trying it, but it's.
Come back to me.
I would always come back to you.
Thank you.
I would like to try. I think it's not as easy as they make it out to be. I think it's really, you got to really be focused, and I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can will myself into that, but there are things online. There are books about astral projection and how to do it, and I mean, if you want to search it out. But I do believe it happens, because I believe it happened to me. Mm-hmm. Just not.
No, you know that it happened to you.
No, I know it happened to me.
Because it was confirmed.
Yeah, and I think it happens to people more often than not. I think people who are going in for an operation where they stop the heart, and the person is actually clinically dead, during the operation, although they're kind of keeping the blood flowing artificially. I think people are having these experiences all the time. And so where they leave their body and they go through different areas and they visit somebody, miles and miles and miles away. They may not call that astral projection. They just say it's an out-of-body experience. But basically that's what it is. Yeah.
We are hosting a show coming up soon with a psychic medium, and I would like to ask him how he feels about this.
We'll talk to him about that.
Yeah.
We're doing.
He would know better than I would know.
Yeah, we have a bunch of interviews coming up. We've been busy at work trying to line up things and make these shows a little bit more diverse, like our Bigfoot show and the Jennifer Ann interview. So we're trying to do more of that, and we hope you're listening to that stuff because some of it's really, really fascinating. And, with this, talking about our experiences, right? I know a lot of people are enjoying this, and that's a really great thing. But we do want to diversify a little bit more and try to bring other people in and talk to them. And so, please.
Well, it's interesting because now that you're talking about this a little bit, the first time you mentioned astral projection to me, and I didn't know it. I hadn't previously known what it was.
Right.
Was you had visited me in my family's summer home that has the entity.
Yes.
That
the
exists.
Spirit.
A spirit that lives there. Very lovely.
Right.
Lovely, warm, loving spirit.
Yes.
And
we became good friends.
And a bunch of visitors to the home have had their experience, especially newcomers. Mm-hmm. Have had their experiences, and usually it's the footsteps up the back.
Yes.
Stairs.
Yeah. Very distinct sound.
Very distinct footsteps on these wooden stairs hitting the riser.
Hitting the riser on the way up. Yeah.
And I said, I've acknowledged it when I'm dead asleep. Mm-hmm. There was one friend who was there, and he heard it, and I was asleep.
Yeah.
Just out. And when he heard it, I said, "Oh, he's here."
Right.
So I feel that it's a male
energy.
It's a male energy. I don't remember saying that. I don't.
Right.
When he told me that I said that, I was really pretty shocked.
Yeah.
But because I don't really talk about it, don't want to scare away friends and guests from the home.
Right.
But then you had your experience, and I said, everybody has these experiences except me. All I get from this house is love.
You'd probably be running.
And you, and you said, well, maybe it's you.
Yeah.
And I said, what do you mean? And that's when you got into the explanation of astral projection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just to bring it back round full circle.
I guess you were wearing those heavy shoes. And I have no idea. No. Well, look, there's more information on this. Well, maybe we'll try to get a guest on that really knows about this stuff. And
we will look for one. We will look for one if that is of interest to our listeners.
But like I said, I believe it. I think you, to a certain extent, believe it because you don't want to talk about it and you don't want to learn.
Oh, no, it's not that I don't want to talk about it. I'm more than happy to talk about it. I just don't want to do it.
You don't want to do it.
I don't want to consciously do it. There was one woman who was giving a lecture about this, and she was really stressing me out. I mean, she was saying, if you do it of your will, it's of the devil, it's evil, and it's all these bad things, fire and brimstone.
But if you do it through Christ,
if you do it through Christ, if God wills it, you're good to go. Go wherever you,
Yeah.
And she was really making me very stressed out.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I have a sore neck today.
Maybe. It stressed you out to the point of turning her off.
I did.
Yeah. Well, look, we have an open mind to everything, and we do look at this stuff from skeptics' point of view. But just to reiterate, when scientists come on and they say, well, this is the product of your mind, and basically, that rushing through to get to the end of a tunnel, well, that's manufactured and stuff like that. But meanwhile, people who describe this stuff are saying that they are rushing through at an incredible speed, and they're feeling this. And so it doesn't quite jive to me what some of the scientists are trying to make of this, and trying to explain it. And I've said this before, that they're trying to put it into their box of to make it fit in that box, in that explanation. So I'm not totally with that. I think there's a lot of things that they don't know. And, if they feel that it fits a certain narrative, they're going to use what they can, and they're going to dispel the rest.
You got to be more flexible than that. Not everything's going to fit in a box. Sometimes you need a really pretty gift bag with some tissue, and then make it real pretty.
Yeah, well, I guess that's a good analogy, I guess. I think if you're going to do this accurately, you would do this almost like a forensic crime scene, and every bit of information has to fit. And if it's not fitting, then you have to reconfigure your conclusion. And I think that's the problem with science, is
they're trying to utilize the evidence to fit their
to fit their narrative. Their conclusion. So. Anyway, there's just too much stuff there that does not fit into what they're saying. So I'm not anti-science, but I think science...
No, I'm not anti-science.
But I just feel that in a situation like this, if you can explain it, explain all of it, not some of it. And so I'm getting off my soapbox.
Or be
jumping off.
Or be comfortable and confident enough to say...
We don't know.
Fully know.
We don't
fully know. And like myself, right tonight, all my copious notes that I have here about the topic, and
yes,
I don't know enough to know to say yes. I don't know enough to know to say no. Right. I'm going on what you're telling me,
right.
What happened, and I have faith in you. So.
I have faith in myself, and I just think that If somebody pointed to something else to me and said, well, this is the reason and this is why, I would listen to it. I'd be open to it. But like I've said in the past, I've had so many experiences of, people trying to contact me from a different realm. And there is no scientific explanation that would, put that away. Yeah.
It's too far.
Too much.
Out there.
So anyway.
Beyond the boundaries of man-made
that's right.
science.
That's right.
But anyway, that's what we have for you folks. And thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you for listening to our hokey conversation. No, it's not hokey. So what are we doing next week?
We have a couple of interviews.
We got some interviews lined up.
Which ones you want to do first?
We got some good stuff. We're not going to
leave
tell
that up to you, my love.
What we're going to do next week?
Well, you pick the one.
Well, we're going to pick out something. It's either going to be, a ghost hunter or a psychic medium or a psychic medium.
You know what? Hey, you don't know what happens in a week. I could meet Bigfoot.
You could meet Bigfoot, and that could be a thing, or a UFO.
It's a possibility.
You could step into an unidentified flying object.
No, I want to be here with you.
Okay, well, we'll both do it.
Okay.
Okay. Well, anyway, look, it's getting late.
Thank you for listening.
We'll see you next week on another episode of
Back to Paranormal.
Good night, everybody. Thank you, and God bless you.
God bless you.